Now, President Ranil Wickremesinghe critiqued the West for their double standards in dealing with the protest during a discussion with the Harvard University. The head of state responded to a question on the Prevention of Terrorism Act used by Sri Lankan authorities against the protesters in the recent past. He questioned as to why the West can prevent the capital from being taken over, but as to why can't the Sri Lankan parliament being taken over be prevented.
The day after your inauguration in July, military and police forces were used against protesters in Colombo, with more than 50 people, including lawyers and journalists, beaten and injured. The Human Rights Watch has reported that the Prevention of Terrorism Act has been used to detain individuals without charges.
Now the Human Rights Watch talks of protesters being beaten up the day after I became president. Not so. There were protesters who were trying to take over parliament. And it was at that stage that the police intervened and the army intervened. My house was burnt. I lost 3,000 books. They were burnt by some of the protesters, some of whom were very educated people. We are repairing the president's house, which is costing us about 2 to 3 billion rupees. So amidst the protesters who went in were also rogues and others. As far as we are concerned, I would not have allowed anyone to come into the house just as much as you are having inquiries in regard to the January 6th riots. So if you can prevent the capital from being taken over, why is it that you can't prevent the Sri Lankan parliament from being taken over? Why is it that you are using these double standards? I believe in peaceful protest. And that's one thing that can't be said against me. As Prime Minister, I brought in legislation which did away with criminal defamation. We are the only country in South Asia without criminal defamation. I brought in the Right to Information Act. 3 times I brought in the constitutional amendments which established independent commissions, including the human rights commissions. Now why should I go and stop all this? I am the one who had done it. Why should I suppress the rights? But we had a time when the parliament and the whole system was under fire. And that was the time that the army stepped in. And at that time, yes, 2 people were taken under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. Isn't it catching hold of getting the president's house, taking over the government officers, taking over the prime minister's officers and marching on to parliament? What do you call that? To throw the MPs out and say that we are going to overthrow the government. But I sorted it out. I didn't go to, once the period was over and things had cooled off, we let them off. I could have kept them on for months and months. No, I didn't do that because we want democracy to function. So what the human rights has put down here is without inquiry. And I am meeting with Amnesty International in the next few days. If I had anything to hide, I will not meet with Amnesty International.
We talked about the Prevention of Terrorism Act. It's been used. I'm just curious about your thoughts on future use of that act, but also what concrete steps are you taking to restore the rights for peaceful protest and release those who were detained without due process?
Firstly, the right to peaceful protest is there. A lot of people are protesting. It happens when there's violence. There are 2 groups which say that we want to clash with the government. We are going to overthrow the government. That is what you call the Progressive Socialist Front. So what can you do if they come and clash with the police and if they are not peaceful? That's all that I could tell you. As far as people, no, there were 3 people whom we detained and they have all been released. Before the 3-month period was up, to extend the detention, they were released as things in the country were peaceful. And I had hoped that they will not go on the rampage again. Unfortunately, they are on the rampage. So what can I do? Then the police will have to. I am certainly not using the detention powers of the president. Rest of the detentions will be by the courts.